Well, good morning, gents. My 10 of the mighty men in my life that I affectionately refer to as Jonathans. I've had on my heart all morning to send a message to you guys, but I've waited until now because I've been putting my thoughts together, and I just drove over to Building 1, which is behind me, which you can't see. Over in the distance, there's the flagpole. It's before colors, so you can't see a flag. We've got a formation in about 20 minutes. I was in my office this morning thinking about you. It's November 1st, but in the States it's still October 31st, so this is the October check-in. October was Holiness Month. November is Thanksgiving month, because we have Thanksgiving this month. I hope that you've come up with a theme for your month, my friends, and I hope to keep this less than 5 minutes. But that was a 1-minute introduction. There's a list of things that I'd like to share just over the last month. Has been a good month. We had a men's retreat over Columbus Day weekend. We had the birthday ball, which was great. We had a fun run yesterday for Halloween with the squadron, and then trick-or-treating out in Leicester military housing. The kids was Wildcrats. Maria with a great idea last minute. I think it came from her mom, for her to be Kate Upton and me to be Justin Verlander. So she went around looking for Astros jersey. All she could find was Jose Altuve. So she said cover up the number, and those pictures are on Facebook. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. Also, my shoulder flared up. Post about that on Facebook. But a trip to the ER twice, and some steroids and medicine to reduce the inflammation. It's all good, just calcium deposits. Saw it on the x-rays. Out in town you can get x-rays and MRIs for like $200, and then I got in with the doc, ortho surgeon, because a friend of a friend. It's so hard to get things done, but when you know people, you can get things done faster. So thanks to my friend Brett for recommending me to Dusty, who took me in within a week, even though they said it would take until November 20th just to get the first appointment, to get a referral, to get an MRI, to get an appointment, to see the doc. So we got all that taken care of. And my devotion for this morning, in November 1st, to God whom I belong and to whom I worship. Acts 27:23. I just underlined the last part here. Why did God make man on the eve of the Sabbath? That he might begin his life sanctifying the Sabbath and worshiping God, which was the chief reason and purpose that life has been given. My mentor, Jethro, I consider him, told me that sometimes my frustration, sorry for moving the camera around, I get challenged when I'm moving the camera around because it makes it hard to see. He challenged me not to try to control everything, and this was specifically at home, specifically on a weekend up to Okuma, that I had all these plans and wanted to do all this stuff, and some of it didn't get done. And he said, if you get frustrated, it's because of your desire to control. So that's my challenge to you guys, is to recognize when you're frustrated and think about what control you're trying to operate or apply to things, and how that's frustrating you. So we were created on the day before the Sabbath so that our first day in life would be resting. The way to overcome the desire to control is to rest in God's control. And that was one of the truths that I wanted to share with you. The other part about it, the construct of Paul's and Timothy's and Silas's 30 mighty men from King David. I don't know if you guys have bought into it or embraced it. I told SDO Sunday when I came in with the boys, because Maria was doing a photo shoot, and I said, I just thought of something I want to share with you. With your Marines, sell the idea in such a way that they'll want to buy into it, and then they will exercise ownership over it. So think about that. I don't know if I've done that. I think with concepts that make you change your life and start applying things and actually doing things, it takes a long time sometimes to sell it. But I hope that I've sold it in a way that makes you think about at least buying into it, and eventually you'll own it and have your own list of 30 mighty men, or your own list of 3 men, or your own list of however many that you want to maintain contact with. And you can structure them however you want, but because my last name starts with a J, and because I want to remind people how valuable the Old Testament is, and even in light of the New Testament, the people in the New Testament quoted the Old Testament, so it's one of those things that the Jethro, Jonathan, and Joshua were key. And the idea of those Jonathans being in the middle is that's King David, where the 30 mighty men construct came from. And having a Jethro and a Joshua in your life makes you Moses, who was the meekest man in the Bible, and humility being the root of all goodness, and pride being the root of all evil, which I learned from Andrew Murray. I feel like that's a good construct. So the last one, speaking of humility, this other thing that I wanted to share with you, and it's going to resonate with one person in particular, and I've got 1 more minute before I hit 7 minutes, but 13 more minutes before the formation, is a story about walking down the hallway on the phone over this weekend. We've also had 2 typhoons in October. There was a typhoon party that went wrong, and a staff sergeant in our squadron ended up going over to a chief warrant officer's house in another squadron. I'll spare you all the details, but long story short, the chief warrant officer ends up in the hospital with tons of wounds to his back, allegedly due to the staff sergeant who's fighting, but evidence preliminary indicates his wife was actually the perpetrator with a knife. So I was walking down to the STO shack to see if the binder was in there while the XO of the other squadron was on the phone with me, and I just got these cordless phones because I just buy things for my office, which is probably a bad idea, but I put on class stickers on it, and a first lieutenant stops me in the hallway while I'm walking back to my office on the phone with this XO after verifying that the logbook was in there, because we had to do all the stuff, and he said, "Sir, you shouldn't be talking and walking on the phone." I was like, "Walkie-talkies aren't allowed in the Marine Corps?" He was like, "No, sir, it's not authorized." I was like, "Show me the order," and he like threw his hands up, and this is a lieutenant that I have a relationship with, and we've talked, and he knows my point of view. And so I get back to my office, I look up the order on my phone and save it to iBooks, search for phone. The order actually says that cell phones are not authorized to be talking in uniform outside. And it says, in order to maintain good order and discipline and common courtesies. So that's the intent, that's the why. You don't want to be talking on your phone and walking outside because you might have to salute somebody. And it does say indoors and outdoors, because indoors you might have to greet somebody as well. I did not ignore him. I walked by him, I greeted him, and I felt like it was good order and discipline. And we texted back and forth, and he said he wasn't going to look it up. He knew I wouldn't be receptive. He said he's trying to protect the institution, which made me write up on my whiteboard, how do we protect the institution? Because we're going to give more thought to that. And this morning, applying Moses's meekness, because I wasn't originally, the pride wall went up. I'm going to eventually apologize to him for my tone and harshness, and for insisting he recognized that he was wrong, because that's what I was doing. I was like, you realize you're wrong. It was not a cell phone that I was on. And I'm going to tell him that I'm sorry for insisting that he was wrong, because it's not about who's right or wrong. It's about knowing and doing the right thing. And that's what I should focus on. So last thing, I think I said that was the last thing, but I also wanted to share this stepping up thing, and I realize I've already gone over 8 minutes. The video I watched this morning on YouTube, which also inspired me, was A Dose of Flow. It's a former staff sergeant that I knew in my first squadron, and he was working out and stuff, and he had a lot better video than this, but I hadn't talked with most of you all week, and I'm going to send this after the formation, but I wanted to share the Stepping Up Creed. I'll take a picture of it, and I'll read it real quick. My mission I put in my first Stepping Up Creed, that was on page 21 here, but then in the back I got a full one. So I'll tell you this, and you can hold me accountable. I want to be a man, or I will be a man, who plans out ways to intentionally engage and lead my family and friends and coworkers. Intentionally engage and lead. That's what I want to be, a man who does that. And I wanted to display courage by seeking to understand and embrace those who reject or avoid me at home, in the church, and community, at work. So understanding where my first lieutenant is coming from. And I will pursue godliness by maintaining balance, poise, and discipline, and prioritizing and following through, specifically in my time devoted to God, my wife, my kids, my work, friends, and my studies, because I got a lot of studying to do. I will make a difference by clarifying the vision for my family and urgently taking initiative to commit and move in the direction that turns vision into reality. I will step up and be the man God called me to be. And so the vision is to be closer to each other and to God in the end than we were at the beginning, by respecting others, being obedient to God, and disciplined in ourselves, or respecting God, respecting others, obeying God, and disciplining ourselves. So more to follow on that. 10 minutes, over 10 minutes. Got to go to the formation. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.